Yeah, welcome everybody today. Obviously, we've had 6 practices, and excited about the direction of the team and the energy and the effort by the staff and the players. Made a bunch of position changes following Saturday's half scrimmage. The guys embraced it, and looking forward to see how the week unfolds. I'll take questions at this time.
Can you start with those position changes that you made? What are they?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into all of them. As the week unfolds, you'll see them. But we moved some guys around defensively. Keontae Jenkins, giving him an opportunity at the field backer spot. One of the twins we moved to defensive end. The other one we moved to will linebacker. So he's still in the same room, but a different spot. We moved Gunnar Givens from defensive end to defensive tackle. We moved Nyquil Hawkins from one safety spot to the other. So number of minor things like that. We moved Lakeem Rudolph to defensive end. Again, in the spring, to me, this is the time the conversation was about strengths and weaknesses, and let's give this other spot a shot and see if we can't, get a little better play out of you right now. See if we can get you on the field quicker. An opportunity to start, to be in the 2 deep for somebody that was buried on the depth chart. An opportunity to earn some playing time. Somebody that's a backup that has a chance to be a starter at another spot. So lots of reasons. We're giving Connor an opportunity to catch the ball some, see what he can do. So to me, the spring's the time to do that.
No other position changes on offense then? Most of them centered on the defensive side?
Not really. We're messing around with a few minor things that, but not a wholesale change.
And then you said, obviously, the scrimmage on Saturday. Anything else kind of stand out from that? Plays or moments you kind of took notice of, or players you took notice of from that scrimmage?
No, I thought the kids were resilient. The players, with the weather conditions being what they were, I thought that was good for us. We want to be a tough football team, and it was windy. It was snowy. It wasn't ideal. It was some wet ball work. It was tough field conditions, and I want that for the guys. I want them to battle through that and be able to perform. And we got a lot of work to do, but I thought it was a step in the right direction that way.
You said giving Connor a chance to catch the ball some. Is there a specific position, or is he just kind of
not really
moving around?
Yeah, he's one of those guys. He could line up at tight end. He could line up at wide receiver. He can line up in the backfield at quarterback. So we're just creating some packages for him.
Jaden Payute put his tweet out yesterday about medically retiring. I saw you retweeted, said hashtag new role. I'm curious what you envision for him going forward, and how hard of a decision was that for him?
Yeah, this was over a week of discussions. Jaden with his family, Jaden with the athletic training staff and the doctors, Jaden with myself and Coach Mines. Just what's best for him ultimately, and where can he be, to eliminate some of the agony and stress that he's been under just dealing with this. 3 surgeries on that ankle, and just a lot going on for him. And I think between him and his family, it was just time to get to a better place. And ultimately, we wanted to support him either way. If it was time to hang the cleats up, we were going to support that. If it was time, if he wanted to re-up and give it another shot, we were going to support that. And, I want him in the program. I want him part of it, and he wants to do that, whether that's in recruiting, whether that's as a student assistant, whether that's in player engagement. I told him that would be part B of the conversation. Let's once you made that decision, now let's take another 4 or 5 days and think about what this role is going to look like. Let's make sure it's good for you and good for us.
You said you scripted, I think it was the first 5 practices, and then we're going to kind of regroup. What did you, when you kind of looked at the next group, what was kind of the place you put more emphasis on, or maybe took away some emphasis on after you looked at those 5 practices that you had scripted?
Yeah, to be honest, we slowed down the installation like I thought we would, particularly on defense. Just need to be better fundamentally. There's some things that we just weren't doing very well after a couple of practices that were apparent that are kind of, basic things to me. things that you emphasize and you have to have. So, the installation came second. We have to clean these things up fundamentally, and we have. We've gotten better each day at react and drive and pad level and, just alignment and assignment, basic formation recognition and some things. So, we're still moving along with installation, just at a slower pace.
Does that mean less periods per practice kind of this next group, or just?
No, it does not.
It just means just like less of it and going.
Yeah, just what we emphasize. A little bit more inside run, team run, first, second down stuff. We've introduced third down already. We have gotten to third down. We've got some situations out there. We've introduced some blitz periods, but we're still working on skellies and working on inside run and plenty of individual and group work to kind of hone those fundamental skills that are important to us. So, it's a work in progress.
Anything different on offense then?
No, we slowed installation down a little bit. Yeah, and there was Saturday we had some special teams competition periods that we did not get to because of the field conditions. We just didn't want to risk injury, and so we postponed those and got caught up on those yesterday. But yesterday was by far our best practice. We looked more like a football team out there from a competitive standpoint. From the beginning of practice, it started with O-line, D-line, and continued from there. It was the most competitive day we've had.
I'm curious at kind of a broad question, but at wide receiver, what kind of has stood out to you through the first 6 practices, and especially new guys like Jaden and Steven? What
there's some guys right now. Lofton has stood out. I'd say, to the offensive coaches and to the defensive coaches, he's a guy that stood out. Jaden Blues made some nice plays. Dalen Wright made a couple of plays that caught people's attention. I joked with him. I said, I'm not sure I knew what number you were, but now after today, I do. Made a couple of good plays. So I think, Gosnell's doing some good things. And, C. Moss, a young guy that shows some things. So, again, there's a pool of guys there, and they've all got some qualities, and it's just about developing them right now.
I'm curious, when you move guys around positions, what kind of goes into those conversations? And I'm sure you're talking with position coaches. What's that conversation with them like? And because I'm sure you're trying to put them in the best position on the field.
Yeah, those conversations, generally it's the position coach and the coordinator, and if I need to be involved, I am. But it's about we are going to be upfront and honest with these guys from the get-go about weaknesses and strengths. I don't want them to be surprised, so these conversations shouldn't have, blindsided them. This is where we're at with things and where we think we can minimize some weaknesses and have you reach your, or be a little closer to reaching your potential. And, so it's a positive. It's not a negative, and sometimes guys want to see it that way. And I just told them, you got to trust us. I've been doing this 31 years. It's in all of our best interest to put you in the best place where you can play the quickest and help our football team. That's good for you. That's good for us. So the guys embraced it. Their attitude was tremendous. And to be honest, defensively, I felt it out there yesterday just in one day. Just the speed and an athleticism. I would say when you look big picture, we downsized. Things kind of went from corner to safety to linebacker to defensive end, and D end to D tackle. And it was noticeable. So, there's key spots that I won't talk about now where, we have to find somebody that we feel like we could win this league with at that spot. There's a couple spots like that. And so we're going to keep working some guys through some areas. That doesn't mean that we don't come back to the guy that started out there in day one. But we gotta vet the roster and see if there's not guys that make us feel better about it.
Did you, with the quarterbacks and running backs, you said kind of before that eventually narrow them down quicker was better, or hopeful. Have you started doing that with reps at those two positions? Because those
this week we have.
This week,
Yeah.
so practice number, 5 or Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday was 6.
And so what does that look like? How much are you limited? Like how do you, what's the first step to narrowing it down, I guess?
Yeah, when you talk about your top 3 guys, and basically we went around and had personnel meetings, and it's who do you want to see to get the reps at this point? Who needs the reps? And maybe it's because you're trying to evaluate them further, and maybe also because somebody else you feel like what you're going to get. You don't need to see more reps. You know what, like Dax Holyfield. Dax is still obviously has opportunities to get better, to learn the defense. But we also know after all the film and all the experiences, what you are getting in Dax more so than some other guys on the roster. So it's a fine line of juggling those reps. Dax needs reps, but also we need to see other guys, work at the position. So, and that's just one example. But those are the questions that you have, and I say, listen, we need to figure out what Chance Black can do. We need to get him enough touches over the next several days where we can figure it out. Is he a top 2 or 3 guy at the running back position, or do we have an opportunity to maximize what he could do? And maybe it's at receiver, maybe it's at corner. The guy's a talented guy. It's our job to get him in a position where he needs to help us this fall. That's what I told the staff. He needs to help us. He's too talented a guy. So if it's not at tailback, where it's going to be, and we got to figure it out. And it may very well be at tailback. But if it's not, then we only have 15 practices in the spring to give him an opportunity somewhere else.
So is he one of the running backs that you kind of focused on? Can you name
We've got a few things for him, moving him around. He's still in the running back room right now.
But what are the other running backs you kind of focused in on?
Yeah, there's some guys that have, Keyshawn King has a ton of talent. You're talking about, you want to recruit guys that you feel like could play receiver, could play DB. You want to recruit linebackers that you feel like could run the ball, and I don't mean fullbacks. I mean guys that could play tailback or were good tailbacks in high school. So that's part of it right now. After winter program and 6 days of practice, where is the position flexibility with guys? We moved a guy Matheny from out at Sam, where he was doing a nice job. Moved him into Mike to give him a chance to be kind of a third down Mike linebacker type guy. He runs, he's fast, he's a little light to play Mike all the time. He's not exactly what we're looking for at Sam, but let's see what he can do there. We'll have these same meetings again next Monday. After another 2 practice days and Saturday will be a big scrimmage day. Probably, 2 to 3 times the reps right now that we had last Saturday from scrimmage work. So,
and then a couple on Zoom.
What have you seen out of Jaden Blue this spring, and obviously a difficult time in his life? How has he approached the spring, and just what's he been like?
Yeah, his attitude is incredible. It's infectious to everybody. He's so positive and upbeat, brings a ton of energy every day. He's super excited about his opportunity here. He's appreciative. Can't say enough good things about him. He's still a work in progress. He's a little bit behind maybe some of the other guys, just from a standpoint he was out of pocket for a number of weeks. He wasn't here training. He wasn't getting the winter walkthroughs. He wasn't. But, he's an experienced guy. He was very productive at Temple. And, the game's not too big for him. So he gets better each and every practice.
Have you ever had to deal with something like that as a coach? I mean, there's
I have.
playbook for something
no.
Like that. How do you approach that?
You just heartfelt, It's easy to it tugs on you and stays with you. And, nobody should have to go through that. And to have it be one of your own and so you get close to him and his family pretty quick. And the university, the department's been fantastic in supporting Jaden. I think he would tell you the same thing. And that's what it's all about in the end. When these guys go through something tough like that, that's when, when you talk about being family, that's when it's really relevant.
Nathan, on Zoom.
Hey, Coach. What have your impressions been of Keyshawn Artist? Just kind of a leadership role for him, kind of a versatile guy who's worked his way into playing time. What have you seen out of him so far?
Yeah,
here in camp?
Keyshawn catches my attention. The game comes pretty easy to him. He's got good instincts. And, the thing I would say is he's got position versatility. He's been playing a ton of will, which has a lot of adjustments to it. But I think he may fit the Mike position a little bit better, but he's got to be more vocal. Right now, he's not a guy that will communicate. He doesn't appear to want to command and run the defense. And we got to get him there because it may be the best position for him if he gets that part of it squared away.
Mike Barber.
Morning, Coach. In terms of your players, where you see them from a strength and conditioning standpoint, are you happy with where most of the program is this spring? Is that an area that needs improvement? What are your initial thoughts as you're seeing these guys out on the field?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think we need improvement in every area right now. I think I told the guys the other day, I think, there's maturity on the team. You walk into a meeting and guys are looking you in the eye and sitting upright, and there's certain things they do that, sometimes when you take on a new program and go into a new place, that's not there, and those things are important to me. But, it was a good winter. I do felt like we made strides this winter, and Coach Galt and his strength staff are doing a great job. I think they've been embraced by the football team. Those guys are believers in what Coach Galt and his staff are doing down there, and that's going to be important. We want to be strong and we want to be physical. In certain areas, we want to have mass and size, but I'm not as hung up on that. I want guys that can play the game, will be tough, and will be physical. I'll give up a few pounds for those traits.
You've talked about, when you're transitioning into some of your schemes and installation, it takes time. How long does it take for a strength program to kind of establish itself in terms of culture and results?
Culture and results, I'd say a full cycle. I think, you're talking about a calendar year to really feel like they've got their program in place and the expectations are understood by everybody. And that's where you start to see true results.
And last one for me, you had mentioned on an earlier Zoom, just the reality of college football with the portal. Guys, will leave after spring. Some guys will join your program. What is the emphasis or the discussion amongst the coaches of kind of recruiting your locker room, the idea of keeping your guys in the program committed going forward?
Yeah, it's not something we talk about. That's our overall approach and philosophy with this organization. We're going to build relationships, and we're going to build trust, and we're going to have honest conversations. I don't want this to be where they're told one thing and another thing happens. It's not going to be like that. So, when a guy comes in and has a portal conversation with me, I want to feel like that we've done our part to keep that from happening by being ourselves, by working within our philosophy and our approach, and that I'm going to be disappointed when those things happen, but I know they will to a degree.
Thank you.
Hey, Brent, I know last week you were at that high school AD event in Charlottesville. Just in terms of for you, what has that adjustment been like, focusing on being a football coach, but also kind of taking on those ambassador duties of a head coach?
Yeah, I love doing that stuff. It's not other than the inconvenience of being out of the office and your calendar being loaded. I love doing those things, the outreach and, the conversations with the athletic directors over there. They're important to me. And I saw a lot of guys that were coming up through it when I was here the first time that were high school football coaches and are now ADs. So it was a good visit, and we want to be close to the ADs in the state. And as I've always said, what's good for Virginia high school football is good for us, and what's good for Tech is good for them. And so I'm looking forward to building that relationship. No, we did not see each other. Tony and I have talked. We ran into each other at a Richmond clinic and had a good talk. But he spoke earlier in the day.
Last one, Mike.
Two quick ones. The competitions that you have at the start of practice, putting the position groups together, how do you determine which two go against and what's the drill? Is it you just saying, I think the offensive line needs one today, or I mean, what, and like, what's your kind of philosophy kind of behind, like picking those specific ones?
Yeah, that's the first thing I do in the mornings of practice. Come in at 6, get a cup of coffee, and decide the competition and the matchups. I love doing that, because it's going to change. Who do you want to see, right? Who you testing? And it starts off, I want to see, who's supposed to be the best on who's supposed to be the best. I don't want any frauds, and I've told them, there's no guarantee. You may have been a starter for 3 years. That's not guaranteed you're going to start a fourth. Guys are going to be tested. And I want guys that want to be out there. I got problems and concerns when guys don't want to go. You don't want to be thrown out there in front of your peers and compete against the very best from the other side of the ball. And you're probably not at the right place. So I think those things are very telling, to be honest. And they've been very good. I wish we could do more. It's a continuation of our winter program of prowler pushes and tire pulls. And, we do one-on-one pass rush. We do angle tackle. We do one-on-one red zone routes. So it's been good.
Is there any one position group that stood out in one of those yet that you were like, wow, that was pretty impressive?
I think the defensive backs have done fairly well against the wide receivers in the red zone work right now. And they're handcuffed a little bit. Right now we give them a slant or a fade. We'll work some back shoulder stuff in here soon, but we want to see them get better at those two things first.
And then we've observed full practice and then a portion of other. You seem to be a guy right now that's sort of like floating and a little bit hands-off. And from what I heard at Penn State, that was sort of the opposite. You were very hands-on. Has that been a conscious approach to sort of show how much you trust your assistants to the players? And will that change in the fall? Because you said you're going to call plays, so will you get more in the mix then? Or was it sort of like something that you need to sort of prove to yourself you can do by being hands-off? Because obviously it's a change. Can you just your approach kind of at practice?
Yeah, so I think two things. Number one, you're right in what you've observed while you're out there. And that's been evaluating the whole thing. So those first couple practices and even when practice starts out, it's evaluating the managers, the trainers, the coaches, the operation. Are we efficient? What does it look like? Are we spaced out right? What's the video? All of it to make sure it's what we want, right? What's best for everybody. And then the second piece is making sure that that I'm spending enough time evaluating all areas of the program. Naturally, my eyes want to go to the defensive side of the field. So that is taking a conscious effort. If the offense was outside, make myself go out and dive into it. And, but also the second piece to that is once individual ends, I'm usually over there in the defensive back end right now. And I've gotten more involved starting last week, just in that office more with Chris and his staff and more involved on the field. Just felt like it was time I could start to dive in there a little bit deeper. And, and that was good. I mean, this has been certainly a transition for me. I walk down that hallway, and those guys are doing, what I've done for 31 years, and I'm doing something else. But, right now I'm pleased with the way things are coming together. We're still, to me, ground level as a staff in working through things and what we need to do. And but I've been pleased to this point. I think the staff's done a great job. Practices, to me, from what I've observed and what others have told me, we're pretty efficient, and operation is going pretty well, considering a new offense, a new defense, a new head coach, just a new philosophy and new approach. So I think after 6 practices, I feel pretty good about the progress we've made. I still look at it big picture and say we have a ton of getting better to do.